Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cringy Movie Collection Podcast with me, Raf, and Ludo.
Hi, I'm Ludo, and today we are at my place because I'm lazy.
Okay. Hopefully this will not bode poorly for today's podcast.
No, I'm always lazy, guys.
They haven't noticed yet.
No, but now you know.
This is a DVD review podcast where we watch movies from my old DVD collection that I started kind of collecting in the mid-2000s, and there's a lot of trashy movies in there, and so usually I get berated for my poor taste.
By me, I'm the girlfriend, and I judge him.
But hopefully today it won't be so bad, because we're talking about Wreck-It Ralph, a movie from 2012, so not the early 2000s, and I think a very good movie. Also I got this quite, obviously, after I was a teenager, so maybe...
So your judgment got better because the movies you got when you were a teenager were more trashy.
I think, but don't you... I mean, this is the whole premise of this podcast, right? Is the idea that as a teenager I had low standards, and now I still have those DVDs, and it doesn't bode well for me.
I think as a teenager, from what I can see from it, when you were a teenager, you were even more like cheesy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
That was a very great...
You were very more cheesy as a teenager.
We're gonna play the intro music so
Now.
that Ludovica can collect herself and actually speak properly.
Blue,
Oh, we're not gonna play the intro music. We're gonna sing it apparently. So I'm gonna go. Vroom-dum, vroom-dum, vroom-dum. You have to do different themes, not the whole thing. Da 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 da. Floom. Maybe you should play the real intro.
Yeah.
As we have already talked about in different episodes of the podcast, I enjoy video games. We talked about Titanic, which I watched because I was interested in it because of a game. Talked about it with Indiana Jones, which is a tying game that I enjoyed very much. So obviously, when Walt Disney Animations came out with a movie, like a CGI, computer-generated movie about video game characters, I was very interested, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it, and now I have the DVD.
Nice.
It's not really, like the movies that made it into the collection after like 2010, generally speaking, they are just movies that I thought were very good, and so I bought the DVD.
Oh, you bought it, you didn't exchange it or steal it.
Yeah, well, eventually you come to your senses. You want to talk about what this movie is about?
About this movie. This movie is about games in an arcade, and the characters are actually able to have their own little lives and travel from game to game.
And when you say they are able to have their own little lives, what you're saying is that the game itself, the things that the players see, isn't all that's happening inside the arcade.
Yes, they have hopes and dreams beyond
their actual characters.
What they do is like the game is like their 9-to-5 jobs, and then they go and they do their things in the game world. And until the games are plugged in the arcade, they can travel from game to game and meet new people. And the main character of this movie is Ralph, and he is a villain in his game, but he's not really happy about being a villain, especially because he feels left out from the other characters in the games that think he's bad also when he's not playing. So he tries to go and be a hero in other games, so he can show the other people in his game that he's a hero too. So he goes and tries to be a hero in other games, and eventually he stumbles in this game that it's a racing game made out of candy.
A racing game made out of candy. It's kind of a candy world, and that's the theme of the world, yeah.
And there is another character that also she feels left out of her game, and her name is Vanellope. And they
I love
don't
when
go...
you remember a name, it just shuts you down. Like, you can't continue talking afterwards. You're so proud of yourself that you remember the name that you go like, and like you just reboot. It's correct.
That's actually what happened to my brain.
I know. I can see it happen every time. I mean, the 2 times that you remember the name in your life, but anyway.
I was so happy that you said Sarah Silverman.
I mean, if you had said her name is Sarah Silverman, that would have been really bad, yeah.
Anyway, they don't go along at first, but eventually they team up to just win in the games, and they do, and everybody's happy.
So I think what's important to note is that when Ralph game hops, he also kind of accidentally brings in a threat from one game to the other, specifically from Hero's Duty to Sugar Rush, which is the candy world. And so this bright, colorful candy world is kind of being threatened now by these monsters called cybugs, which multiply rapidly and then just eat and kill everything.
But they also get cuter because when they eat something, they take the appearance of the thing they've eaten. They have eaten.
It's kind of like Mega Man.
So when
or
they
Kirby.
eat candy, they just become bugs, color like candy.
Yeah, they look nice, still deadly though.
Yes, yeah.
So that's kind of the big finale is kind of a combination of the racing, which was set up from that's Vanellope's goal, and then the threat of these bugs, which is kind of Ralph's quest because it's his mistake and he has to fix that. So that's the story. I think before we go into the video game stuff, I think it would be like interesting to discuss. Doesn't a lot of this movie feel like someone just wanted to make a candy movie, and so they combined these 2 ideas of what if video games characters, had their own little lives, with what if there was a world made of candy? You know what I mean?
Yes. Maybe somebody was pitching a candy movie, but the pitch that won was the video game movie, but they still had to throw him a bone. But
that's exactly what it feels like.
I feel that a lot of video games have candy.
I guess. Name 2.
Candy Crush.
Okay.
And Sugar Rush.
Okay, you get the point technically, because Sugar Rush was made into like an online game for a while after the movie came out.
Also, there is a lot of candy at arcades.
I don't know, I haven't really been to an arcade.
Yeah, the next to the arcade there is usually that candy place in which you can get all the candy and put like in
This is in Italy?
Maybe.
What kind of arcades have you been to?
I couldn't go to the arcade. I'm not allowed
so how do
to
you know
play
these
video
things?
games. Because I saw it from the candy store.
Okay, that's why you associate arcades with candy,
Yeah.
because instead of going to the arcade, you only got to the candy store?
Yes.
Okay. The candy world looks amazing. Like, I mean, supposedly it was a big challenge to make it look that real, like it's actual candy. In a way, it's almost like they could have gotten away with, like, kind of fake-looking candy because it's a video game.
But also, I think that a lot of video game movies are very blue.
Okay,
Dark.
name 2.
Like Tron.
Another one?
Tron 2.
Ah, okay. Tron Legacy. Wow.
Ready Player One.
Yeah.
It's like dark colors and red.
Resident
and
Evil.
Like we go make a video game movie, but we make it pink.
Make it more like Super Mario. Right?
Yeah.
Like a colorful world.
But it does feel like they didn't have the permission from Nintendo to use Mario.
Well, they clearly had some permission from Nintendo because Bowser is in it.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about that then. There are all these video game character cameos in this movie. We have Sonic, and he actually gives important exposition. He goes like, "Oh, don't die outside a game, or you're gonna be dead for real." which is important information. But it's like Sonic is only there to do that. We have Bowser, who's at the Villains Anonymous or whatever it's called meeting. We have
Pac-Man.
Well, is Pac-Man actually in the game?
Yes, he's in the game. He's at the party.
Oh, that's right. He eats the shrimp cocktails.
Yes.
And then we have one of the ghosts is there. We got Qbert. Like, there's a lot of actual, like, Tapper plays a minor role as a place where kind of Ralph's quest begins. And it's kind of a fun idea that all the video game characters after hours would go to the beer game.
Yeah.
But I was wondering how you feel about it. When I first saw the movie, I was just super excited that Sonic was in the game and all these characters I recognize. But now it kind of reminds me of the fact that they couldn't make this movie with this story, but it was Donkey Kong rather than Wreck-It Ralph because the Wreck-It Ralph cabinet looks a lot like the Donkey Kong one.
Yeah.
And like. They didn't have the rights to make a Donkey Kong movie, even though they probably could have told a story like this with that. And so it reminds me kind of the fact that these are just, pardon the pun, but like eye candy, like here is Sonic because you like video games. And so, how do you feel about it? Do you think it was cool, or do you think it was kind of sad?
I think it was cool. I enjoy Pac-Man. I also think that, no, it couldn't be a Donkey Kong movie, because the fact is also that Felix, Fix-It Felix, is an old movie. It's like 30 years old, and it could be unplugged. Why nobody would unplug Donkey Kong? They would make everything in their power to fix it.
Well, so I haven't seen the Super Mario Brothers movie. I'm just saying, like, I want a story of this caliber with these actual game characters. If you put cool, like, characters from other games into your video game movie, isn't it kind of a sign, or like a kind of like it just kind of proves that you can't make good video game adaptations? So you have to have your original story and sprinkle in a little bit of video game.
But I think that the movie works because it isn't like an original story. It's not about video games, because I would not go and watch a Donkey Kong movie. But this is nice. Like, it's more about what's, like, it's more meta.
Yeah, but if this wasn't in my collection, would you go watch a Wreck-It Ralph movie?
I wanted to watch it, but then I was a bit afraid that it would make me a little bit, like, motion sick, because often with video games I do... like, it happens to me, so I never watch it for this reason. But yeah, like, it's cute.
But Donkey Kong you wouldn't want to watch, even though that's a movie about an ape.
No, because if it was like a different ape, that it's not Donkey Kong, because otherwise I feel, well, I don't play so much Donkey Kong, so maybe it's not the movie for me.
Okay. And the people who did play a lot of Donkey Kong would probably hate it because it's too far removed from the game, even if it's a good movie.
So having an original character targets a broader demographic.
Yeah. Let's talk about the video games, the fictional video games that are depicted in this movie, rather than the cameos. There are a few. Obviously, Fix-It Felix is the
regional game,
the main
where Ralph comes from.
Yeah. Fix-It Felix Jr., I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I have very little experience with arcade games, but again, like I said before, it looks kind of like the Donkey Kong cabinet. It looks like beautifully 8-bit. How do you feel about the fact that when you go into the cabinet, suddenly they're not really 8-bit anymore? Like, they're more three-dimensional.
I was upset at the beginning, but then I thought, well, but it would be more tiring for me to watch if it kept being all the time.
If he was 8-bit everywhere he went, it would be really weird. What I was thinking would also be fun would be whenever a character leaves their game, they turn into the style of the other game. Because we do see him leaving Pac-Man's, and they show the Pac-Man game screen, and all the other characters, they walk and they're all animated like they're in the game.
Yeah.
That could have been a fun thing, but maybe it would be too reference heavy. Like, again, like you said, it would be tiring maybe.
Yeah, but I think that the Pac-Man reference was because they were looking from the screen of the game.
Like at night, if you walked by the
Yes.
cabinet, you would see that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think that it would be cool to, like, when they go to this hero's duty, they would become all, like, jacked and
Yeah,
stuff.
super muscular.
But there is a fun love story between the super tough woman at hero's duty and Felix.
Yeah.
And I think it works nice when he's, like, so, like, goofy looking character and just, like, told like half of her. Like, it's very cute. It's it defies the norms, because if Felix goes to hero studio and becomes like jacked and everything and super tall, that would be more conventional.
Yeah.
And
it would be difficult to have clear identities for characters if they kept changing physically.
They should also then become like, whoa, let's do hero's duty.
Well, the hero's duty obviously is this like kind of like a clear reference to Call of Duty. Even though Call of Duty doesn't really have the sci-fi aspect of it, they fight these bugs. Obviously, Call of Duty is more of a military thing, but what they very clearly copy is the crazy, high-energy, like, gruffness of everyone. Everybody's like, they don't have a chance in hell. That kind of thing. Like, everybody talks like that, especially one of the lead characters who comes with us on these adventures. And she's super gruff, and she has the most tragic backstory ever. And so she's like, super jaded, and... she's constantly throwing out these one-liners, like kind of also like maybe someone from like an 80s action movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's great fun. It's in a way loving as well. Like the sequence in the game itself is fun when they're like running around and Ralph is freaking out because there's all these monsters.
Yes, and he just turns to the person playing the game. It's like, this game is scary.
Yeah, just clogging the screen so the player can't see anything.
Yeah.
The tone of Hero's Duty is a carbon copy of Call of Duty. And then finally Sugar Rush, which is just Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's Mario Kart. I thought that I would more play Sugar Rush than Mario Kart.
Because it's all candy?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have different worlds, it just has one candy world?
Yeah, but the candy world, like, is themed. Like, the ice, instead of having, like, the penguins, it has ice cream. And it's, like, different kind of desserts, have different kind of worlds. But they also have... Like, I really liked it when they had the weapon, because you can go through... like
power-ups.
Yes, and one power-up is just that you can throw
an ice cone.
Ice cream cone to somebody.
Only the ice cream ball itself.
Yes.
And then they turn into a pie.
I would totally play that. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah. Like I said, there used to be a version of this as a promotional thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's possible to play it anymore.
We will find out.
Yeah. Now, one of the things about Sugar Rush that I always thought was kind of weird, and it ties into the idea that someone just wanted to make a candy movie, is that there's a lot of stuff in Sugar Rush, in the world of Sugar Rush, that has nothing to do with the game. And particularly thinking of the Nesquik sand.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is just there because, first of all, it's a fun pun. Secondly, it serves the story. But why is that there in a racing game?
But they explain it to be like a level that was never completed, and so it appears
that's the Mentos Hot Springs Coca-Cola thing.
Yes, that was a level that was never completed, but maybe
not Coca-Cola, sorry. Diet Cola.
But maybe there were more of these levels. Yeah. Also, we know now that the villain was not supposed to be in that game, and he tampered with the coding.
Let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
So there's several mentions throughout the movie of something called going turbo.
Yeah.
And eventually it is explained that there used to be a game cabinet, which was Turbo Racer or something like that. And it starred a character called Turbo, and Turbo was the star of the arcade for a while. But then there was another racing game, and everybody wanted to play that one. And so Turbo got very jealous, and he went to the other racing game, and he just wreaked havoc. He stayed there during like opening hours of the arcade, and he drove around the place and yelled "Turbo-tastic!" And so eventually they unplugged the arcade because they thought the game was faulty.
Yeah, especially because like Turbo was a 2D game and the new game was in 3D. But when Turbo went to Turbo the first time, it just went 2D into the 3D game, and so it was obvious.
So that's the thing. The first time, you already mentioned, it's kind of, it turns out that the ruler of Sugar Rush or Candyland is King Candy, and it turns out that he is actually Turbo in disguise. So this is a reveal very late in the movie, and I've always wondered, because I don't think when I watched it for the first time that I saw this coming, but I've always wondered how other people see it, because when I now watch the movie, I'm like, they're constantly mentioning Turbo.
Yeah.
Like there has, like, this must be a setup for something.
Yes, I haven't seen it coming, but it was set up many times.
Yeah.
It was mentioned Turbo, it was mentioned that he jumped from game to game, it was mentioned that he jumped from one racing game to another racing game, and then, oh, maybe this is why it's candy. Maybe the candy is all like a gimmick to make us forgetting that this is a racing game, so we don't see Turbo coming.
That is a good point to say. Like, this is Sugar Rush is technically a racing game, but we're not spending that much time racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. I also think what's kind of brilliant about it is that they treat Turbo as a secret in the movie. Like, they constantly say, "You're not going turbo, are you?" But no one, like the audience, doesn't know what that means. So when halfway through the movie, the turbo thing is explained, you almost feel like that was the reveal of what they were kind of gossiping about. And you feel like you got a satisfying conclusion to that. And you don't realize that really, that's a really shitty reveal if that's all there is to it and they made such a big deal out of it.
I was kind of happy with the reveal at the time.
Right. That's my point. Like, you're happy with it. But if you think about it, it doesn't have any bearing on the story if that's it.
Yeah.
So it's obvious from a storytelling perspective that there needs to be something more to that, but they kind of mask it really well by treating what exactly going turbo is as a secret from the beginning.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the finale in general? Like, there's a lot going on. Because we mentioned this at the beginning, there's kind of two levels to what needs to be accomplished in the finale. On the one hand, Vanellope von Schweetz needs to cross the finish line to reset the game. And also, they need to fight an enormous horde of cybugs, which we find out can be done with the Mentos thing. But then there's also a boss battle because Turbo catches Ralph and fights him on top of the Mentos, which sounds stupid, but that's what happens.
Yes, it feels, now that you say it, it seems like a little bit too much, but it kind of makes sense. It's not too long. Probably if they would have taken too long, it would feel like it was more. But
no, but the execution is pitch perfect. Like, it's incredible how much is happening, and it's all interesting, it's engaging, and it's all the characters are built enough for you to care. I think this movie is almost perfect. Yeah.
I also like that, like, the end, like, it's just a happy ending on all boards. I think it's on all fronts. I think it's very, it could be a little bit too cheesy that, like, now everything is happy, but it's a game, like, it's a video game. Yeah. It's nice. It feels nice. It doesn't feel too much.
For kind of an animated action movie with such a loud kind of finale, it's amazing how quiet this movie ends, I think. Right? Like, he kind of wraps everything up with a voiceover, which is nice, right? But it's nothing
You don't
incredible.
like it.
Well, it's a voiceover. It's lazy. Like it also opens with a voiceover. It's like, you're doing a lot of tell don't show. Although they show it as well, so maybe they could have just not had the voiceover. But maybe because it's a kids movie, I don't know. Whatever. They close on Ralph getting thrown off the roof as he does in the beginning of the movie, doing full circle thing, and they add this dimension that when he's being thrown off the roof, he can briefly see how people are playing Sugar Rush and they're really enjoying playing the character of Vanellope, and they wave at each other, and it's just quiet and slow, and then the movie's over, and even just talking about it makes me like tear up.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
Very cute. I also like the fact that they can actually see the other movies from like
other games.
It's not just that they are really in the machine. There is the window and you can see that.
You like that?
Yeah.
The one thing I thought was kind of weird is that when he throws at towards the end, he throws the medal in anger at the kind of the plexiglass screen of the arcade from the inside, and the idea that you can physically affect the tape on the other side of the arcade, I thought was that's taking me out of the movie a bit, because it suggests that they could leave the digital world altogether in a way. If they can affect the physical world, that's a problem, because that means they're prisoners in the arcade.
Yes, I was so disappointed that I didn't think that it should, because when it throws the medals, then it makes a clunk sound.
Yeah.
I was thinking it shouldn't make a clunk sound, that I didn't even notice that it coats the paper. I thought that the paper was just like going.
Well, the point is he throws it, because this movie is great about nothing happens accidentally. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So there's a causal connection between Ralph being at his lowest point and figuring out that Vanellope is not a glitch.
Yeah.
And so
because you see her on
the other side,
on the painted on her machine.
Right. And he couldn't have seen that if he hadn't thrown the medal to remove the out of order sign that was on the arcade. So I don't know, like that's just one of those things where it's like if you think about that too much, the implications are kind of grim. But it's like whatever, like, because again, I appreciate that nothing just randomly happens. Like, because he could have also just looked up and seen the Sugar Rush cabinet.
Yeah.
Right? But they add the little, like, he throws the medal away, which is him letting go of this superficial quest that he was going on the entire time. And as he does that, he's rewarded with insight. And that's good storytelling.
Yeah, and then he also wants to go and help his little friend.
Yeah, that's what she said. Since I'm praising this movie very much, I want to have a quick discussion. I used to ask people, like, what's the best video game movie of all time? And I always felt there's an actual objective answer to that, and it's Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh.
But it's mostly because video game movies aren't very good. Now, sometimes people object to that because Wreck-It Ralph is about a fictional video game. It's not an adaptation of an existing video game. I'll grant you that video game movie isn't a clearly defined thing in this context. But let's just say all games about video games, all movies about video games. Like, is there anything better than this movie? Or is this the best?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't consider it a video game movie as much as just like a cool movie. What I think it as a video game.
Why?
Because I know that it's about video games, but it's about people. It's about characters. It's like.
But then you're saying.
It's nice. It's like.
You're saying this is too good a movie to be a video game movie.
Maybe. Like, it's just like.
So it is the best video game movie. It's so good that you can't even tell that it's a video game movie.
I think that the video game is just the setup of, like, to be in that world. But
it should be that way.
That.
It should be that way, though.
But there's no, like, social commentary.
On this?
Yeah.
You mean not specific to video games?
Yes.
Okay, so like what? Resident Evil has social commentary on.
And it's about like how video games impact us and how like we live through video games. And so a video game movie should be a one in which a person goes into a video game.
You're just gonna bring up Tron again.
Yes.
This is, I think, ridiculous what you're saying. The idea that video game movies are movies about video games.
Okay.
They don't have to have a message about video games. I agree with you that this doesn't really comment on video games that much. It uses the nostalgia maybe for video games or the enjoyment for some of these characters and ideas to tell a compelling story, but I think that's what a video game movie should be. It shouldn't be something that stays in the realm of we are talking about video games now.
I don't know, like if to call something a video game movie or a X movie, something about like it's this kind of movie, it has to make me think about video games or about this thing.
Yeah.
Like, and this doesn't really make me think about video games, it's just set there. It's like the Titanic is not a boat movie, it's a movie about the Titanic. Like,
If
call
I
it
Googled-
a boat movie.
If I Googled, by the way, it's a ship, but if I Googled 10 most famous ship movies, you think Titanic wouldn't be on that list?
I just don't think that you can
No,
call it.
I understand that you wouldn't put it on that list, but I think you're wrong.
I still prefer Tron as a video game movie.
I haven't seen the original Tron. I've seen parts of it, and it looks janky as hell. It doesn't
It
look good.
looks amazing.
What's great about Tron?
Neon?
There's neon in this.
Yeah, but it's like it's just like a person entering a video game and having his character's development journey into the video game that he would not be able to have outside of the video game.
Have you watched the new Jumanji movies?
I like Jumanji,
Have you watched the new ones?
the one in which it's a video game and not a board game.
Yeah.
Yes.
You enjoyed those?
Yes.
Yeah. Those are
You're
also
judging
quite
me?
funny. I think they're good. They would probably be somewhere around because video game movies aren't good. Like what?
Nobody did a Zelda movie.
Nintendo for a very long. So the history
There's
there.
the Pokemon.
The history. I haven't seen that one. The Pikachu, the Detective Pikachu
Yes.
with Ryan Reynolds.
Sorry.
There's Nintendo did or licensed the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and it was like a mega shit show.
No.
It's one of those movies that even though I've never watched it and I have no desire to watch it, I know vaguely how ridiculous that is because it's talked about online. So after that, they were maybe kind of going like, we're not doing this anymore. And so for a while, there wasn't really anything. There was a Zelda animated show, and I guess Pokemon was a TV show, right?
Yeah, but was it a TV show before being a video game?
No.
I think it was a card game.
Yeah.
And so it was a video game, a card game, and then a TV show?
I think that's the sequence, but
Okay.
if it's not true, I cut it out. What do you absolutely love about this movie?
It's hard. It's a very good movie in its like entirety.
Yeah.
I think I like the mini game in which they have to
Make a car.
make the cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool because it justifies a little bit the thing that I said before, where like there's a lot of stuff here where we don't know why it's here. Like
There are mini games.
yeah, maybe the Nesquik sand is also part of some mini game.
Yeah.
Could be at least.
There
It
could be a
fleshes
reason
out
for
the
everything.
game world with reasons that are actually diegetically sensible.
Yeah.
Like this could be in an arcade game. I agree with you that it's very difficult to pick one thing, so I'll pick like just a tiny thing that I love about this game. When he goes through the lost and found at Tappers, he takes out a bunch of little like they're all little references to different games, and one of the things he takes out is a little cube that turns into the exclamation mark from Metal Gear Solid, and or just Metal Gear, and it plays the sound and everything, and it's just such a like literally throwaway thing because he throws it away right after because he didn't. That's not what he was looking for. But it's just like that's a great way of incorporating a little video game cameo. Like that's more clever than the Sonic thing, where Sonic is just a spokesperson for don't disconnect or don't game hop and die. Mm-hmm. That I don't know. I thought it was great, and it excites me every time I hear it. But I really hated about the movie, though.
What?
I think I hate that there's a love story in this. It feels crammed in. It's not organic. It makes no sense to fix it Felix. Like, they literally do the thing where the first time he sees her, there's a musical, like, slow-mo scene where he goes, oh, she's so beautiful. I don't like it. It doesn't work. it is not necessary, and it doesn't make sense that she's attracted to him either. It's never, there's no development in that regard.
Because he said the magic words.
Dynamite gal. Yeah. Which is worse, right? Like if you have like a terrible traumatic story and your date just brings that up.
It's like she's hypnotized. She's like this witch. It's like, what?
Yeah. No, but that would also be fucked up. So like, I don't know. I don't think that's organic, nor is it necessary. I like the little joke at the end that they're like half the people at the wedding are snipers. And they're just like aiming at the window in case cyborgs show up. But like, it's not worth it. We didn't need a love story in this. And I understand that like, it would be worse if it was Ralph and the kid. Right? Like, that's literally a father-daughter situation, right? Like the relationship they have. Not literally. It's clearly a father-daughter relationship, and he calls her kid, so that would be fucked up. But just don't do it at all. It's not necessary.
Yeah, I think that what I like about that love story is that society would tell us that a person like her would not be attracted to a person like Felix.
Yeah.
So I like that they showed that
But maybe that needed
like
more.
That could be attracted to each other.
That needed more time in the oven. Then, like this needed to be explained.
Yes,
it's not just like it's weird when it happens, right? He kisses her on the cheek, and then he's like and we know that he's into her.
Yeah,
and then she goes, and then it's the classic joke where it turns into affection, but it's unearned. Yeah, I just would have preferred it not to be at all any attraction whatsoever. Yeah. Just be video game characters. Don't have to
think that video game characters are not in love.
It's in a video game world, it's often not an issue, is what I'm saying. So we don't need it in this movie. So that's the one thing I really hate, that it's there. It's a minor thing though. There's so much other stuff happening that it's not like you're constantly going like, ugh, this again.
Yeah, I also will take like a very, very small pet peeve that I have. Is just that he goes to this Villain Anonymous meeting and is, of course, that as like an Alcoholic Anonymous meeting.
It's called Bad Anon, right?
Yeah. And there is like a big reference, and there is the reference at the end in which they do the closing prayer.
Yeah.
That is echoes the prayer that they do at the end of the Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't like that reference.
Because you don't like that Alcoholics Anonymous is a religious thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
I actually think that what they say at the end of the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting is actually meaningful, and I didn't thought it was religious, and when I discovered it was religious, I didn't like that they're just trying to convert alcoholics, and now they're trying to convert also villains.
Do you feel that it's slightly improved by the fact that it is referenced again at the end? Or do you think that also
there was a reason for it, but also at the end there was no reason. Like if you just don't put that in, like it wouldn't make a bunch of a difference.
I thought it was emotionally more powerful that way because the entire story of this movie is he's a bad guy and he is unhappy about what that means, right? Like and by bad guy, really what we learn later is he wrecks things, and that's not appreciated by society, so to speak. But in this situation, it is a useful thing, right? And so him saying these things that are the acceptance speech that is introduced at the beginning, it is him accepting that wrecking things is a useful skill.
Yes, but it would do the same process in itself even without saying the words. I just don't want to take something in reference to a prayer in a kids movie.
And thus we come to the final most important question of the podcast, which is, of course, will this DVD remain in the collection or will it be destroyed?
Yes, it will remain in the collection. I think it was my favorite movie so far.
Next time on the podcast, we're going to discuss Rush Hour.
Yes, that we're about to watch now.
1998. And have you looked it up by now?
No.
So you know nothing about this movie.
I don't know anything.
I think we'll leave it at that. I want you to know nothing about this movie, and then you will very quickly understand what this movie is.
Yeah, this is why I chose it. I just want to I want to have the first impression. And if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends.
Postcast, as in Postmates.
If you like...
Is this not a weird hidden sponsor?
I stopped doing ads. You hate them so much. It's like you hate comfortable undies. Anyway.
I think the music's been playing this entire time.
If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel and like this video.
Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Bye bye.